primed the miniature in black, and then I'm going to be utilizing the airbrush for my next few steps. Now I know there's a lot of negative stigma around the airbrush, but anything I'm doing with it can be accomplished with a brush. I'm not doing any crazy blends or anything like that, I'm just using it to speed up the process. So we're going to be taking Warhammer Colors Screamer Pink, and we're going to be doing an undercoat on the Zergling's belly. I'll also be hitting the underside of the limbs as well. And I know the focus sucks, but I'm just slathering the paint on there. It's the same as with a brush, the airbrush is just faster. I think it might be difficult to fit a sponge up in the crevices, but you can give that a try too. With that all dried up and my airbrush cleaned, I'm going to be using the airbrush to spray Manticore Ochre by 2 thin coats over the top of the miniature. And once again, I'm just kind of slathering the paint on there. I'm getting a nice full coat of the paint so that it's nice and saturated. I'm not really doing any fancy blends. If you notice, like on the limbs, you could just do that with a brush too if you're using thin paint. I think the Manticore Ochre gives a really nice color to our chitin. I think that's what it's called. Chitin. Wow, I got that really wrong. Anyways, make that coat fully saturated, but you know, if you got some messy, splotchy bits, don't worry about it too much. It's a Zergling, you're gonna have like 20 of them. Don't worry about the accuracy too much. Once all of that has dried, we're going to take Doomfire Magenta Contrast Paint by Warhammer Color, and you're going to want to thin it down, and you can utilize water or you can utilize a medium such as Contrast Medium. And I typically prefer the Contrast Medium because it helps the consistency of the paint remain the same way that it normally is, just acts thinner, if that makes sense. Anyways, you'll want to apply it over the majority of the middle section so that you're combining that chitin with the kind of fleshy underbits. I'm also hitting bits of the chitin, such as in the face, as well as the insides of the shell itself. But as you can see, we're keeping it nice and thin. We're just painting it along and focusing mostly our brush strokes in a downward motion. So that way the magenta kind of pools up and settles in the lower area, which is already that Screamer Pink. And when your paint is thin enough, it will really help that blend together when you are painting those downward strokes. And here you can see me painting that contrast into the inner shell part of the chitin, which I mentioned earlier. If you feel like you applied too much contrast here, you can take your brush, add a little bit of water, and then start to brush it out and away and feather it throughout the chitin. And as it has dried, you can really see how much heavy lifting that contrast has done. And it's really important that you thin that contrast because Doomfire Magenta is a very strong color. It doesn't act as some contrast paints do in that it has that heavy shade and heavy brightness. You can see here how the result of putting a little bit of that contrast into the chitin, the inner shell part, looks. I also let it pool up on the forehead just to give a little bit of color there. Alright, after that we're going to return to our Manticore Ochre to do some highlighting. And for this we're just going to take our brush and we're going to do some simple brush work to highlight. How much you want to do depends on you. Really what this step is going to do is we're just going to help define the edges so that way the eye can catch them and read them a bit better. So you don't really have to worry about highlighting every single edge, but you just want to kind of catch those areas where you want the eye to focus on a little bit more. And mostly that's in the head. And your highlights don't have to be perfect. That's one of the fun parts about painting an organic being like this, and that you can kind of be a little messy, and that kind of makes sense because the chitin is kind of broken, it's lived its life out in the rough wilds, it's been through weather, wear, tear, all that. It's fun. Following that highlight, we will take Cerberus Brown by 2 thin coats and we will highlight a little bit more. And just like the last highlighting, you don't have to do a whole lot. Mostly you want to focus it on the face so that the eye is drawn naturally there, and with your brush strokes you can be soft, you can be quick, and just kind of get some of that bright color in there. Additionally, with that color, we're going to paint all the claws, teeth, as well as spines on the chitin. And for that, we're going to do a full saturated layer. Reusing this color will not only keep the paint job simpler, but will also reduce our time that we're spending on it, as well as tie in multiple elements of the model so that it looks like a unified color scheme. And here you can see how it looks with all of those colors saturated in on the claws, and it really kind of works in my opinion. It definitely has a different tone from the chitin, but it feels like it fits in. We're then going to highlight those claws by mixing AK 3rd Gen's warm gray into our Cerberus brown. And with our brush, we're going to be taking our brush strokes out towards the point of our claws, and we're going to be doing semi-thin lines so that way we can create texture in our claws. I will admit, I'm not doing a great job of it here. I was struggling with getting my paint on that day or something. I don't know. But generally, the thinner the lines, the nicer it will look, because that will create that texture of kind of like a horn or claw or whatever. And with that complete, we're going to take a pure white and we're going to paint it in that little eye socket. And it is a bit difficult, but just brace yourself against your desk and get in there and you will do just fine. After that, we'll take a fluorescent red. I'm using Vallejo's Flow Red, and we'll just paint it right over. It doesn't have to be a fully saturated layer. You want some of that white showing through, so that way it looks like a nice glowy eye. Now, I thought I was done, but as I looked at the miniature, I decided I needed some more contrast in those claws and teeth and horns, so we're going to be taking Warhammer Colors Agros Dunes Contrast, and we're going to be watering it down or thinning it with a medium if you prefer, and we're just going to be shading all of those elements. And you don't have to be really clean with it. If it gets on the skin a little bit, that's fine. It'll just kind of shade it. Just focus it towards the base of each of those elements. And here the Zergling is complete, and I'm super stoked with how fast this model was to paint and the kind of quality that I got with it. It's a very, very simple look to achieve, and it's got a lot of impact. You can definitely take it further with some additional highlighting, but do remember it's a Zergling and you're going to have a lot of them, and you can save all that work for those more impressive elite monsters like the Hydralisks. Thank you for checking out this video. I hope you liked it, and I hope it's very useful for you. If you enjoyed the content, please make sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment down below, and catch my other videos. My next one will be a StarCraft 1 style Marine, with lots more StarCraft to come, as well as other games such as Marvel Crisis Protocol. So if you're into that, make sure you check that out too. Thanks, I'll catch you in the next one.